Welcome to Star Wars Action News, helping Star Wars collectors collect better.
Now at Comic-Con, we covered all the collecting stuff, but there was one big Star Wars event that, because of all the other stuff we were covering, we couldn't get to in person, and that was the massive Hall H event. The line started the afternoon before.
Actually, it started Wednesday, and the event was Friday.
Yeah, so we weren't able to do that, but podcast video editor and reporter Berent, he took the bullet for us, and he's joining us now. Welcome, sir.
It is good to be back on the podcast. Thank you very much for the invite, Arnie and Marjorie. And it wasn't that bad of a bullet to take. And if you're going to take a bullet for someone, this is the way to do it.
When did you get in line?
We got in line at 6 a.m. Thursday morning. We got in line at the end of line of Hall H. And there was about maybe 100 people in line in front of us. So we're within the first 100 people.
So the panel was Friday evening around 5 or 6 o'clock. So when you got in line 36 hours before the panel, there were 100 people or so who were there first.
Absolutely, absolutely. We had talked to Amy and Ryan from the podcast that they share with you, Marjorie.
Yep, Collecting Cosmos.
Amy is a master at standing in line at Hall H. She has done it, and she was giving me all of these tips on what to do. You know, bring a chair and an umbrella and a hoodie, and she was going to get a mattress with a hand pump so she can lay on it so it wouldn't be on the sidewalk. And the way that Hall H works is you really can't stand in line for 36 hours. I mean, that's too much to ask of anyone. So you have to take shifts. And I had agreed that I was going to try to get there as early as possible, get in line, and then we would take shifts. So even on the official Comic-Con information, they say, you know, take shifts. So I got in line at 6 a.m. and they relieved me about 10 a.m. and I was able to get some coffee and get some breakfast. And then we worked shifts actually the rest of the day. I would be in line for about 4 hours or so, and then Amy would come and relieve me, or Ryan would come and relieve me, and even Gus Lopez was there, and Gus would relieve me. So we were having a pretty good time in line.
So all in all, you got in line at 6 a.m., but about how many hours were you really in line versus having somebody hold your line?
I'd say we were in line about 16 hours.
That's still a lot of time.
It is a lot. So I think that The Force Awakens would qualify for that amount of time to spend.
What happened like Thursday night?
Okay, Thursday night at about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, they started giving out the wristbands. And, it was chaos. It was chaos. There was people trying to cut in line. There was people that were, 1,000 in line trying to cut in front of us. We had to shame this dude out of line. I mean, we used the Game of Thrones, shame, shame. It was just chaos. They had a bunch of security there, and they did the best they could. But after that was over and we got our wristbands, Amy and Ryan decided that they were going to spend the night there with Gus. And they said, why don't you just come back at 7 in the morning and we'll hold your place. And that's what we did. So we went back at 7 in the morning. We were under the first tent. We got our wristbands. We were in the section A. I guess they had A, B, C, and D sections depending on where you were in the queue. So we were in section A. So we were actually about 15 rows back from the stage.
Wow, that's really close.
It was really close. Amy said that was the closest that she's ever gotten in Hall H. Ever.
So, of all the panels that you did sit through in Hall H, was there any that you enjoyed or anything that you might have gone for that anyway?
I would not have waited in line 16 hours for anything but The Force Awakens. But there was a couple icings on the cake and a couple cherries on top. One, we had to sit through the Walking Dead panels, which I've never been able to sit through a Walking Dead panel because it's always been in Hall H. And then there was a Game of Thrones panel that was also before the Star Wars The Force Awakens panel. And again, I've never been able to sit through one of those because of Hall H. So I basically got to sit through a few panels that I wanted to see anyway.
Very cool.
So we're in the panel, and it's The Force Awakens is about to happen. Chris Hardwick comes out on stage. He is very emotional. I mean, he had done the Walking Dead panel before, the 2 Walking Dead before, but he was so emotional, and he gives this, anybody was able to see the panel, you could tell that he was very emotional, and he tells the story of how, you know, he saw the Star Wars movie, and it really changed the way he looked at things and at life, and he was so proud to be there. And you could feel the tension, you could feel the excitement in the air. And then he starts introducing everybody, one after the other, come out on stage, and, you know, the crowd's going wild. I mean, this is a moment in time that we'll never forget, and it was great.
Awesome. Who did you get most excited to see? Was it JJ? Was it Harrison Ford?
It was definitely Harrison Ford, and I think pretty much everyone was pretty excited when he came out on stage because he wasn't supposed to be there. Or there was kind of missed messages whether he was going to be there. We knew that he had gotten injured in that plane crash.
Well, that's why he wasn't a celebration. He was supposed to be a celebration.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so nobody really knew if he was going to be there. And, you know, it almost feels like sometimes Harrison Ford gets kind of pushed into things he doesn't want to do.
Did it feel that way that day?
It did not. What happened was they had introduced everybody. So they started out with JJ and Kathleen Kennedy, and then they introduced the villains of the Star Wars The Force Awakens, and they introduced Leia and Luke, and then there was one chair all the way at the end that was not occupied, and I remember leaning over to Ryan and saying, that's gotta be Harrison, that's gotta be for Harrison. And then they introduced Harrison, and the place goes crazy, absolutely crazy. And then they asked Harrison Ford the question about how does he feel about being back, and he gave such a heartfelt answer. You know, he thought it was going to be stupid coming back after so long, but he felt that it was a good feeling, it was the right thing to do type of thing. It was the movie that he wanted to do. And it did not feel like he was forced at all. It actually felt that he genuinely appreciated coming back and appreciated the fans. And that's what came across.
And of course, they released the footage online shortly after you saw it. It's that behind the scenes video that kind of disses the prequels in every frame about how this is practical and it's going to have the tactile feel. But yet you also get some cool things like Carrie Fisher looking like a badass soldier again and things. What was the energy in the room as they were playing that?
It was just amazing. It was always on level 100. And some of these images that they showed there, I have never seen before. I try to stay semi-spoiler free, but some of the images I have never seen before, and especially on the big screen where you can really see the detail of Kylo Ren's movements and the way he looks, and Captain Phasma, and they introduced, you know, a new villain, which is, he works for the First Order, but the energy was just crazy. And then J.J. Abrams brought out that first alien. Do you remember when he released that kind of a snippet where he was talking about, I guess, Course of the Force?
Yeah, that weird looking, kind of hunchbacked,
kind of like an ET-ish looking alien. Well, they brought him out on stage, and he said that there was, you know, over 200 aliens like this that were going to be in the background that are just not special effects, that are ran by puppeteers. And the alien walked up and down the stage and up the stairs, and he just kind of stole the show for a little while.
Now, given that the entire panel has been released officially through YouTube, the footage was put online at StarWars.com minutes after the panel ended. Was it worth it?
Absolutely worth it. You cannot put a price on spending that much time with people who love Star Wars just as much as you do. And they had a surprise for us. At the end of the panel, J.J. Abrams, because he knew that we had all stayed out there and spent hours and hours in line, and some spent time camping overnight.
He brought donuts, I read.
I actually have the donut box. I have one of the donut boxes he has. Gus has one, and I have the other donut box. And Gus got them from, I don't know where he got them from, but when I showed up in the morning, he says, "Hey, how would you like this donut box that J.J. Abrams?" And I said, "How would I like it?" And I actually have the donut box.
Well, congrats.
Did he sign it?
No, he didn't sign it, but I had kept it to see if I could rush the stage. And, you know, they did it real smart. What he said was, at the end of the panel, he says, do you guys like Star Wars music? And of course, everybody said, yeah. And he says, how would you guys like to go to a Star Wars concert, a live concert right now? And he says, I only have room for everyone. And then all the security came out and they have these passes. And he says, everybody just walk out the door. They'll hand you these special passes and we're all going to walk together to the concert. So JJ, all the stars got out first and they were kind of flanked by the First Order stormtroopers, and we basically all walked over to the concert. The concert was basically on the pier, by the pier where the docks are, and they had a concert stage out there. The San Diego Philharmonic was playing the songs. They played basically one song from every movie and then the crescendo of the Star Wars theme. When they first started playing the music and JJ was introducing the Philharmonic, you had Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, and Han Solo and Harrison Ford out there, and they were all holding up lightsabers. They were giving out these Hasbro lightsabers that said SDCC2015 on them. Everyone was holding up that lightsaber. And then they had fireworks to the music, the last song, and they had alcohol and they had food, and it was just an amazing experience. I mean, I have pictures. We're going to see when you're watching the video podcast, you'll see the videos and the pictures that I took, but it was 7,000 people holding up lightsabers with Mark Hamill, J.J. Abrams, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher. I mean, you can't get any better than that.
Amazing. So does this make it your best Comic-Con ever?
Arnie, this is definitely the best Comic-Con ever. My son's 10. He's able to keep memories that he's formed now. And I can honestly say that you asking me to do this, I've honestly done everything at Comic-Con that I ever wanted to do. Whether it was meet the stars I wanted to meet or wait in Hall H to see a panel. And it was just amazing, man. It was amazing.
All right. Well, thanks for doing it. Thanks for sharing your experiences. And it just sounds amazing. I hope the movie lives up to that experience now.
I hope it does too, and I'm sure it will. I hope it does, and it can't be any worse than the ones that we don't like, right?
Well, those would only be the ones that aired on TV.
But you guys were there with us in spirit. I mean, you were there with us in spirit, definitely.
And following you live, Facebooking the whole event, it was, incredible. And for anyone who wants to see the spoilers, see the footage, it's all out there on YouTube. We intentionally avoided all of the information. The information is out there for those who want it. And Berent, thanks again for joining us, and we will be talking to you again soon.
Thanks for having me on the show, guys. And Arnie, Marjorie, thanks for asking me to do that. It was a memory that I'll never forget. May the Force be with you.
Thanks for watching this video. You can see full episodes of Star Wars Action News with more collecting news and reviews at swactionnews.com. We also have thousands of toy and collectible photos in our photo gallery. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. May the pegs be stocked and the Force be with you.